Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 3 of my Off the Track Motorsport podcast, where I delve into the personalities underneath the helmet and find out their stories and what makes them tick. This week, I'd like to put out a big thank you to our podcast sponsor, which is Viking Offshore. Viking Offshore is a leading global company in the offshore renewable and shipping sector. You can find out more details about Viking Offshore on their website, which is vikingoff.com, their LinkedIn account, and their other social medias. So, without further ado, let's welcome on this week's guest, who is a nine-time Mull Rally winner and certainly an idol and somebody who I have looked up to over the years. So, Calum Duffy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much for having us, Fergus. Looking forward to some good crack and a bit of a chat about it all.
Aye, that's it. It's all about a bit of fun, isn't it? So, yeah, I mean, obviously, you've done the rally for a lot of years now. What, loosely, 30 years you've been in the game, would you say?
Yeah, I started the rally when I was as soon as I could navigate. So the first event I did was with Kenny Livingston, and we
Oh,
did
was
it.
it?
Yeah, we did it in a Chevette, and unfortunately the engine blew up down in between Greeben and Screeden, so we had a very cold night down there, waiting to get rescued. And then the year after that, I navigated for Ulster Ingram, and we had a very good result. I can't remember if we were 10th or 12th overall in a 1600 Sunbeam. And Alistair was a really sound guy, he was just so laid back. And yeah, we had a great time, and that was it. After that, I started driving myself.
That's what gave you the
So
bug, was it?
yeah, that. And I was always doing autocross when I was younger. Um, we had an Austin Allegro, and we had a Mini, and with Dave Thomas up at Dervig Motors and Angus McKenzie, Angus August, people would know him. They helped us kind of build it up. We were only like 13, 14-year-old kids, but you could go onto the autocross crash track and drive it. So Dave used to take his lorry up with our Mini on it, and they had their sort of really supercharged Mini. And Dave gave us the use of the garage, and it was really nice of him to sort of. So we're always screwing about at things, and we had a lot of help from nice people that helped us along the road. So that was my motorsport start, if you like, was autocross.
Fantastic. And then, always were you in Dervig at the time, were you, or where were you kind of staying?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Dervig, and my grandpa and uncles they had crofts, so I was always charging about there, and the car itself. And then my cousins stay at Califley Farm, the McPhails, and Colin and James, and I would be up there for most of the summers, and they would always be driving. And I was always in awe how they managed to drive tractors and God knows what else, and I didn't have that exposure to maybe that they would have. And then it was actually James that taught me how to drive, James McPhail, just very first time, and I'm quite a bit old, well, a couple of years older than James. And I remember he had an old mini van, and we used to go up to the steadings, they called it, and there had a big fuel tank in the middle of it, and we just round there and then way back down the road again. But James forgot to tell me about what the middle pedal did, which was the brake. So I came in there and I just crashed straight into I can't remember, it was like a doorway or something, but it was just a case of reverse and try again. So no, it was great fun, and it was a great world to live in at that time.
Yeah, fantastic. It's kind of like I look at Dervig as kind of like the motorsport or the rally hub of the island. A lot of people maybe not be very happy with that, but I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, pretty much the birth of the pig day and stuff. Like I've spoken about this in the past. Like it's something that I think's kind of like dying away a little bit. And to be honest, I could almost say that you've probably got to take a bit of credit for the success in these type of events because there's such a huge amount of support in the whole of Dervig for all these years when you were winning, time after time, and it was just like a huge thing for the little town.
Yeah, it was, and the the people there were always so supportive, win, lose or draw, and even if you didn't do well, it was the same people that there were saying hard luck, try again next year, and that more often than not would fuel you to have a more aggressive go at it the year coming. The pig day thing, to give you actual history and how that happened, that was there never used to be a pig involved in that, and it never used to be outside or anything like that. So what happened is, yourself, and you're in the rally, you're sober all weekend, hopefully, and then you get to have a party on the Sunday. But everybody else has been partying all weekend. And so it just it used to say, well, we'll come out on Monday, just everyone that hasn't had a chance to have more drink than everybody else, and we'll have a bit of a party. So we used to have it inside in the Belfroy, and it was just a big shindig on the Monday, basically. And someone, I think it might have been Oni Bo herself, came up with the idea of, well, why don't we not just sort of take this outside? And at the time, I think the owners of the pub were Paul and Joan Graham, and they were massively behind. They sponsored me in the rally. They were huge supporters of the event. The Bear Cub rally team had their car in the Belfroy garage, massive supporters of the event. And they said, well, why don't you take it outside? We'll put something on, we'll have a disco or whatever. And that's how the first pig day started. So there was a guy called Tom Addy, and he was, I can't remember where Tom was working at that time, but he was a chef. And he said, well, I'll do the pig. So when he provided the pig, I think we provided the firewood for the fire for the spit. And I can't remember where exactly they got everything together, but it all came together pretty quickly. And all of a sudden it just became, because the pig was never, I don't think it was even sold the first time. It was just given to people.
Yeah.
And then they realised, well, hold on a minute, this could actually make some money for the bear cubs or whatever, they decided. So that's how it became such an event. We had Peter McCrone had a bull thing, that sort of, I can't remember what you call them things. One
Oh,
of
the
them.
rodeo thing.
That's it. It had one as well. And no, it was just a carnival, it turned into, and I'm not 100% sure why it didn't continue. Maybe just a sign of the times. But there was some fantastic Mondays had there. It was, the island kind of shut down. There was people who definitely should have been working, were definitely at big day. Getting. I remember one of the first ones we had, but it was the first time we won, maybe in the White Escort. There was actually drink flowing out the door of the Belfry, because the champagne or whatever was sprayed everywhere, and it was just chaos, but all good fun. There was no harm in it, but just mental when you look back on it.
Fantastic. It's fantastic, that kind of element of community there. It's, kind of ingrained in everyone just to really support and get behind everyone. Like you talk about the bear cubs and stuff, and the kind of work put in by, all the locals, and Steve Davis especially, kind of call him the Oracle, I suppose. He's just, done so much for it. And what he did, obviously kind of the story behind that was, Steve Davis had this little Corsa and kind of got together and got the kids involved, and then they kind of built that road car into a rally car, and involved everyone. And it's such a fantastic thing, for that community to do that. It's really, really, really good.
Yeah, well, Steve Davis was instrumental in me starting as a driver. I bought a car off Steve. It was a four-door Escort, Royal Mail Red, and it was a bare shell, and it was in Steve's garage. And Steve was still rallying himself at that time, and he didn't hardly have enough room for his own car, but he made sure there was always room for my car to be in there. And the amount of hours that Steve put into that car to get it to where it was, and that car made it round the Tour of Mull Rally. That car was second overall quickest in its first ever stage, and it was quickest overall on the last stage. And it started
Fantastic.
a car 1-2-1. So I can't thank Steve Davis enough for what he did in terms of time and mentorship and everything he did to get me to the start line of that event. And he's an unsung hero, and the stuff he did with the Bear Cubs, again, he never looked for credit for nothing, none of that, and all the
Yeah.
time and effort that he put into that. He gave so much enjoyment to people that,
Yeah.
like I say, there's very few people who will give that kind of effort and not look for something back.
Yeah. No, an absolute gentleman of a guy and so much put into it. It's quite funny there you were saying about Royal Mail Red. Um, the rumours or when I was growing up was always, oh, how's Calum Duffy so fast? It says, oh, well, he was a postman and he's been round all these routes, thousands and thousands of times. That's why he's winning. So was
Mm-hmm.
that your history before? Were you running the routes, were you?
No, that like fun. Everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people do that and associate me with Royal Mail. And the the facts of that story are my mother worked for Royal Mail at that time, and no, I was never in the van or I was never a postman, but they sponsored me for that event, and because that car was sponsored by them, it was always red. Even when Steve had it, it was red, and then there was a big Royal Mail emblem on the side of it. And then we also serviced out of the Royal Mail garage in Craigienure. So everybody was like, oh, well, he must have a foot in, he must be the postie. And obviously, we were going really quick. So that it all just sort of tied in, and it was that's how legends are made or whatever, It was very much an urban legend. It wasn't true. But that, hey, I mean, if you want to call me the postie, I've been called worse.
It's so funny how these stories and stuff just kind of come alive in the on the island life, the
Oh,
Chinese whispers, if you will. It's fantastic where all these kind of myths come from. But no, that's really really interesting. And so, like a lot of your rallying, like I was having a look at the EWRC of all your results and stuff, and you've always rallied with your brother. I would say he's been a kind of pivotal part of your rallying career.
we when I first started driving, it was with my dad, and my dad was my navigator, and that was a very firm stipulation from my mother that if you're going to do this, you take your father with you. So that was fine, no problem. And dad himself back in the day loved fast cars, all that kind of thing. So he didn't sit in the car very much at all. We didn't do much practice in terms of pace notes, nothing like that. So when we did eventually get to the start line, I've never actually sat him down and asked him what was he thinking, but nonetheless, we started at car 121 in what was that, 1993. We caught two cars in the first stage. It was an old Saab that was in front of us and something else. And we had no idea what we were doing, to be honest. We had no idea time cards, nothing like that. So again, rally community, people around you, they'll help you,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we got to the first service, and I think we were lying like sixth overall or something like that. And everyone was like, where the hell did this come from? That must be like, this is timing errors and all that kind of thing. But and then that was the first loop of stages. And then because we were so far back, that was one of the only years it snowed in the Mull Rally. And
Wow.
then when we did the third loop of stages, we were on slicks going around Calgary with 2 inches of snow, and we caught five cars on one stage because everyone was caught out. But we just couldn't. It just seemed like normal in that car. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
you weren't caring. I think at that point, and I think we dropped to, I don't know, it was mid-20s, but we got reseeded into the 20s, and then it was just a mad charge after that, and just trying to get back into the top 10, and just the car at the end of it, when we came over the very last stage, like dad was saying to me, do not take knock jump flat, and don't get me wrong, in that 1600 cross, well, flat was probably not what you would be in a modern car. It was still probably 70 or 80 miles an hour, whatever. There's no
Yeah.
chicane at that time, and it was the full stage. So I was like, well, there's only one corner left after it. What's the worst that could happen? So we did take it flat, and what a landing. It was horrific, and I was like, the car limped round the next corner. We got over the finish line and sort of handed the cards in. And I remember neither of us could open our door when we got back to the guys that I think were at Sound. We were trying to open the doors, but the car had bent that much that we couldn't open the doors in it.
That's
So
so funny. That's
that
so
car
funny
was
that you
gone.
said that. I've
Yeah,
heard
that the
that
car
rumor
was
before.
finished. So yeah, the car was finished after that. That was its first and last event under us. So, but to answer your initial question, Dad was like, what the hell happened there? And he got the bug as well. So then we're like, well, we set the fastest time in the last stage in a 1600 four-door Escort. There must be something here.
Yeah.
So we said, well, let's put a bit more into this then, and then that's obviously when the story started, and then we were winning the rally for, I think it was 3 years on the bounce in the black and white car, and we
Mm.
always mechanical failures, clutches, engines, all sort, and it was getting so frustrating. Neil McKinnon, I think Neil won them 3 years, but we were winning by a good margin, a couple of minutes, and nowadays that that's in the bag really if you can bring
Mm.
that. But we didn't. The car let us down, and it got to the stage where like, right, do we need to be hiring a four-wheel drive to win this event? And there was a massive surge behind us wanting a two-wheel drive car to win the event again. And
Mm.
Neil was so dominant at that time, people wanted a change as well. And of
Yeah.
course, a young upstart coming up, that's ideal, isn't it? It's the ideal story. But it must give Neil his place as well, because he was always very helpful to us.
Mm.
He didn't. He was a great competitor, very very fair. He knew how to play the game, which is motorsport. Win at all costs. And he
Yeah.
taught me a lot in terms of attitude and drive and discipline to win the event, that kind of thing, which are all fundamentals. And you do need someone to show you a lot of the time
Mm.
things are, and it's because obviously when you were winning the event, it wasn't just the car that was to blame. It was me as a youngster not knowing, not being mechanically sympathetic to the car.
Mm.
And,
Yeah.
there was thinking, I would go out and get pissed in the Sunday night, and Neil had won the event again, and I'd be raging because I knew I had to wait 12 months to have another crack at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually, the people around you, you'd start to listen. And actually, the year in '98 when we won the event, Neil was winning the event clear in a Group A Subaru at that time. We just couldn't catch him. The car he just had a really good run, and the
Mm.
car he was in was fantastic. It was a really nice, a proper built car by McKinstry, and we just couldn't catch him. It was as simple as that. And we were coming down. I remember we were coming between Greeben and Screeden, and for some reason, we were in front of Neil on the road at that time. So we were running at number one on the road. And we came out the back of Screeden, and the jungle drums had beaten quick. And they said, on Neil's gone off the road. I was like, well, no, he hasn't, because we would have passed him, we would have seen him.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was in between two sections. And I think he'd have some issue with his battery, and his lights had gone out. And
Mm-hmm.
he'd actually just sort of dropped into the ditch, and then he would be able to clarify it better himself, actually what happened. So the win came to us by default that year.
Mm. Yeah.
We were there, and it didn't feel flat because we were miles ahead of anybody else behind us. And you'll remember a guy called Chris Griffiths. He at that time, I think he had either the Manta or the Group A Subaru. I think he had the Group A Subaru, and I remember there was 2 stages left to go. And Chris Griffiths found me on the Craigie service because he knew I was 24 or something like that. And he says, "Calm down." He said, "I'm not going to catch you." He
Mm.
said, "Drive your car through the 2 stages and win this rally." So I thought that was really nice of him.
Yeah.
Because you can get, there's that many thoughts going through your head that, oh, he might catch me, even though he's 4 minutes behind you. It was never going to happen. But he was such a gentleman, Chris Griffiths, and I'm so glad he won the event because he really deserved it.
Mm.
So it's all these little nuances that go on, and that people don't see, and they see people in certain ways, but as a competitors, you see people in different ways, and there's been some fantastic people come to Mull that never won Mull, and they should have because they
Mm.
deserved it for the time, the effort, and everything they put into Mull. No one would have begrudged them a win,
Mm. Yeah.
and they've probably gone over the age now that they're just never going to do it. And I bet it doesn't eat them, but it kind of, when I look back at it, I thought, nah, that guy deserves a win, just because of the effort he put in. So, and '98 was Dad's first year we won it together. So obviously we were massive party again, all that kind of thing. They kept the Belfry open for us, so we got back home. Everyone was like rubbered in the Belfry except me and Dad. So we came in and like we were definitely paying catch up at that point. So
Yeah.
yeah, so rubbered as well, but probably a lot quicker because we're that full of adrenaline, whatever. But it was in, back into Tobermory on Sunday, and then that parade was just the street. There must have been, I don't know, 600-700 people there, and then
Yeah.
the party afterwards was just unbelievable. I remember them giving me the, what do you call it, the bumps and the mishnish, and I hit my head off the roof. And just, yeah, and then the next day, so that was Sunday. So then the Monday, we had a party in the Belfroy, one of the first after parties, if you like, and we were dancing in the tables and everything in there. Just it was nuts.
Yeah.
And then '98 was the year that we hit the Armco barrier around Greeben.
Hmm.
So we hurt the car and we were out. Chris Griffiths won the rally that year. That was the year that Neil McKinnon couldn't do the event because he'd had a car crash that year and his
Okay.
foot was still damaged. So yeah, Chris Griffiths won that again. Someone who'd put a lot of time and effort, and no one begrudged him it.
Yeah.
And we moved on to 2000, and that was the big Millennium sort of event, and we've hired our first four-wheel drive car. So that was the Evo 6, and I mean that was a not an iconic drive, but the last stage was iconic in terms of the time we took out of Neil to win the event. We'd had our problems throughout the event, and Daniel Harper had an Astra at the time, and Neil had started at the front. I think he was, say, 40 seconds ahead of us, and we had the Hill Road and Glen to go,
Hmm.
and then it was Daniel in front of Neil, and I asked for 2 minutes in Daniel because I was going to give it everything in that stage, and I thought, well, I'm probably going to catch him, but I'm not sure where.
Hmm.
But they wouldn't give me the 2 minutes anyway. And I thought, well, I'm going to have. I didn't want to lose time catching, passing, and
Yeah.
especially when it was after seconds. So anyway, we came over the hill, and the car was just on point. It was going excellent. And I could see Daniel going round the school, and I thought, I'm not sure I'm going to catch him here. But anyway, he must have seen us coming because he was pulled over. We never lost a second passing him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he pulled in just before Craig, and like I say, we never lost a second. So anyway, we carried on, and I'm pretty sure when we got to the end of it, we weren't far off Neil at that point. So I knew we'd taken over a minute out of Neil. So I thought, well, it's in, we've got it, And I'm pretty sure I seen Neil looking in the mirror, and he thought, that's not Daniel Harper. Well, yeah, so that was that. So that was just, but that was the end of rallying for my dad.
Right.
He
Okay.
said that was too fast for me. He said, I'm not doing that again. Because that stage was mental, especially up the Glen. Some of the cuts we were taking were just, and you would never do that in a two-wheel drive car, but you were a whole car off the road job kind of thing, and just pure and utter ignorance. That's all it was.
And obviously, you've been in the two-wheel drive all the way up to that, and then you're in the four-wheel drive. I take it when you're getting to that corner and you're seeing the cut, are you following the likes of Neil's cuts? Because that was your first time there, or were you
Yeah,
just had you recce'd it and thought, that could probably go, or were you just taking a risk, just going Colin McRae style, just going for it in the moment?
yeah, yeah, certainly. Because like we'd had some issues with the car in terms of understeer and just I wasn't happy with some of the things on it anyway, compared to what you would get in an Escort. And the times were better, obviously, and the weather wasn't great, so you felt more secure in that car, and it felt like a tank, And it was there was one in particular that I don't know, you might have heard the story, but it's up at the caravan in the Glen, and I always thought if you carried enough speed over the top of that there, that you would clear that corner in the middle. And to
Hmm.
drive it normally, you think, well, that's just nuts. That doesn't happen. Well, it did happen. And we were and it did happen. And that was the point that my dad was like, no, that's too much. He said, that's just beyond comprehension. And don't get me wrong, we didn't land on the road. We
Yeah,
landed in, we landed in the shite before the road, but we were doing 130 mile an hour, and the pure inertia took us back onto the road in a
yeah,
horrible shape, gathered it up and away, and he just thought, no, that's too far. But we needed to do that to get that win, and that was my thought process, And if I'd landed maybe another 6 feet this direction, that would have been a plane crash.
yeah, yeah,
So that it worked, but I would never do it again.
yeah.
It just is what it is.
Definitely sounds like, your mindset is of, a mighty competitor. Is this something that you've kind of always been like? Is it something once you get your head onto something it's maximum, no holds barred, just zone in, let's figure out how to do this properly and let's just go, like that kind of winning spirit. Is that something that's, not just in the rallying?
Yeah, I would like to think that, I bring that to every aspect of things I do in life, and obviously I compete in martial arts, that kind of thing, and I'm always looking for a challenge, and with
Mm,
work it's the same, you're built. The type of work I do is very niche. It's very dangerous. It's very physical. You've got to really be on top of your game to make sure that it works. And you try and surround yourself with people like that. Like 9 out of 10 people can't do our job, and that's not blowing a trumpet. It's just a fact.
mm,
And so yeah, I mean that you have to have that mentality. You have to get up in the morning. You have to want to go to work,
yeah.
because the day that you get up and you go, I'm not in this, is the day that something will happen.
Yeah.
Um, and it's the same with rallying. If you if you get up and you have any fear in what you're about to do, you should probably park the car.
Yeah.
Or you're not enjoying it. You don't come off and think that was it. That was everything. You leave it all out there.
Yeah.
And if it's not good enough, it's not good enough. But at least you come off thinking, well, I couldn't have done any more. But
Yeah.
there's nothing worse than coming off and thinking, oh, if I just tried a bit harder. And it's the
Yeah.
same in any part of life. And so yeah, it's something that, and you can't teach that. That's either in you or it isn't.
Mhm.
And so yeah.
So obviously through the years, obviously being a local lad from Derby and stuff and doing the Mull Rally, that was where a lot of your rallies were done. But was there any like aspirations further than that? Did you ever want to take it, British Championship or over? I mean, obviously you've got rallies over in Ireland and stuff.
Um, yeah, like when we when we had the black and white car, there was chat then about Ford at the time were running in the BRC, and we were encouraged to go and do an event down at Otterburn, and we were told there was scouts there that were supposed to be going to be watching me. I think I was 21 at that time, and anyway, we took a wrong turn at a split, but our times after that were in the top 10 in a place we'd never been before, full of
Mm,
locals as well. So we met, because it was always like, oh, he's only good in the island. He's no good anywhere else. So we proved that we were quick in Otterburn, which is a daunting place to go to.
hmm.
Um, that was me and Dad, and then at that time, people will remember that are watching this. There was two sisters called this. What were they called? Was it the Samsonite sisters or something like that? And Gwyndaf Evans was the other Ford driver at the time. And my name, I was being suggested that I would get the second drive for Ford at that time.
Hmm.
It never went any further than that, because of the reasons that people in the rallying community will know. The Samsonite sisters got it.
Right, okay.
So, and that didn't work well for them. But it was an opportunity that was there, but it wasn't. And then I think, I can't remember which year it was. Was it 96 or 97? Colin McRae flew up to watch the rally, and he landed in Calgary Bay.
Hmm.
Johnny Balls at the time was working for ProDrive, and he had said to Colin, oh, there was this young guy in Mull that was just, really knocking on the doors of the thing. So I'm not saying he specifically came up to see us, but that was one of the things that he could have influenced, our career journey. And our car broke down. So
Oh, you're
we,
joking. So the year he was
no,
over.
yeah. So he sent me a signed picture of my car and said it was such a shame that I've still got it, that we never got to meet and that they never got to see us. So there was like missed opportunities all the way, but
Mm.
it is what it is, and I never ever really focused on that. And at that time, we only did the Mull Rally. So it was, like I say, you were going through this massive emotional journey of like super excited to get up to the start line, doing really well, car would break or something like that. So you're a massive down, knowing that you had 12 months to have another crack at it. And there was nothing in between. It wasn't like you were catching events here, there, and everywhere. So it wasn't until we built the white car. Well, Adrian Hargreaves, he built it, and turned it into an absolute winner. That we decided,
Yeah.
because we won Mull 2003, 2004, and that was with my brother. Then my brother came in 2001, so we did a couple of events there. Had a one fourth finish in Craig Dykes's Escort. He was good enough to let us drive that, and then we had a non-finish 2002, and then we won in 2003 and 2004, which Pete Kenyon, so it was a 2,300 club at that time, and Pete will laugh if he sees this, but he stood up on the stage and said that the Mull Rally would never be won by a two-wheel drive or a Mark II Escort again. So then I won it 2 years in the bounce just straight after that.
Take
So
that.
yeah, but he always laughed about that, and it was always in jest. But the 2,300 club were fantastic, and good people, and they knew how to run an event, and yeah, they were really good sort of camaraderie around the whole event at that time. And then in 2004, we decided that we need to take this show off the island, and what bigger show could you go to than the Donegal International? So
Yeah.
that's where we went. Absolutely, me and my brother, and we brought over half a mile. It was just like a huge,
Yeah.
massive party, just absolutely crazy. We were welcomed with open arms out there, just really good people. We did the recce, and we're both like, "What the hell is this?" Like it was just crazy, but it wasn't unfamiliar. So the roads were not any worse than the Hill Road or Calgary or anything like that. But it
Yeah.
was just like, this is 160 miles in daylight, and we don't know where we're going. We were trying to like work. We didn't know how to find stage starts, nothing like that. So we we're just winging it, and we ended up in a place called Rathmullen. And of course, being from Derrig, you like a pint, don't you? So we would go out, and we met the locals there, and they were so good to us. They were such nice people, and it was just as the smoking ban came in the pubs. I remember that. And anyway, we were all sitting in the corner, and I think the World Cup was on, or the Euros. It was one or the other. And anyway, we were thinking, right, we're just not going to do anything here in terms of who we're supporting or anything like that. And anyway, I think they thought that we might have been not from Scotland, and we were having a good session in the corner, and then they were quite cagey about us, and then it was coming up to closing time, and then the barman came over and he goes, "Right, we're shutting the doors," and we're like, "All right, okay, no problem." He goes, "Oh, you're from Scotland?" "Ah, yeah, yeah." And he goes, "Oh, we get you one more, and okay, that's fine then." And then as soon as the door slammed like that, shut, ashtrays out on the table, everyone's walking away. I thought, no, well, I think we're there now. So we stayed out there. We did the Donegal Rally, and it was unreal. It was unbelievable. And not only that, we were super competitive. So we came out of nowhere, and we were setting top three times, and with a 2 litre Escort with leaf springs in the back of it. And they're like, "What? Where did these jippos come from?" And no, it was really good, and like I say, made lots of really good friends out there to this day, and at that time, I think who was winning at that time? It was probably Damien Gallagher, Robbie Peoples, um, Wesley Patterson, so a few what do you call him now? Marty McGee. Marty McGee was really nice to us.
Yep.
And then, of course, there's a legend that is Connor Curley, and he was just such a nice guy. He is such a nice guy and so friendly, and he was just, great memories. Really good
Mm.
memories. And after it, we're asked to the after party at Tir na Og, which is Brian Brogan's pub.
Mm-hmm.
So they would on the Monday they would have their big day, and then it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
rally videos all day, and just everyone talking about rally, and it was the same feeling as we had at home, the same welcoming feeling, the same kind of the rallying meant so much to these people, and the same as it did to us. So that was the start of our Donegal adventures, and we were there for I think it was between 8 and 10 years in a row,
Mm.
and just had some fantastic times out there. We brought Buffy Donaldson came over and he was piping us up the street, and we were doing Scottish dancing outside the Mount Errigal. And now this is a claim to fame because the Donegal briefing before you start the rally, they do it in a cinema, and you're all the drivers and navigators are sitting in the cinema, and they sort of go through all the safety bulletins, and it's like it's awesome because it's all around you, rally noise, everything like that. And then was it in 2006 or seven? They dedicated a slot of that to us, to our car, to they're back again, and they've brought half of Scotland with them and all that. It was like wow. Now that was amazing. I think James McGilvery did it that year with Ian Fraser.
Yeah.
And I remember Ian Fraser saying to me, "Well, fair play, boys." Yeah, that was amazing. Like I say, and some fantastic times out there. Just we had some huge accidents out there, really game changing accidents as well. So
Yeah, it was the good and the bad out there. There was obviously
uh,
that really big one that you had.
yeah, that was massive. That was and completely out of the blue, and we
Mm.
were charging on at the time, doing really well, and having a great run and a good stage to that point. And to this day, I don't really know what happened. We just got that horribly wrong that bit, and we're just carrying way too much speed, and thought I was aiming for a tree to try and stop us, but didn't realise the tree was like 50 foot down a bank, and so yeah, we destroyed the white car. That was the end of that car. It never recovered from that accident.
Mm.
But
And
it went back.
how were you like mentally and stuff after that? Did that slow you up for a couple of years or?
Um, I can't remember exactly what. I think that was the years we had the blue BDA. It was, and no, it definitely didn't slow me up. We had some epic battles in that blue car. That is without doubt. I mean, I've won the rally 9 times, but there was the two. I can't remember. It was 2008, 2000. Or it might have been 2007. That year in the blue BDA, we finished second to Neil McKinnon. I think.
That's right, 2006.
Well, see that was my favourite rally. That's the favourite rally I've ever done in all the 30 odd years I've been rallying. That event was unbelievable because we couldn't catch Neil. There was no threat from behind, and we were just pissing ourselves laughing the whole event because you're just thinking it was beautiful weather as well. That was the other thing. The weather was really nice,
Yeah.
and just we were laughing after every stage. We're like, until it got to the point where like, whoa, that was maybe a bit close, and we had some massive moments, and but just it was like every hairpin was getting handbraked. It was just
I mean,
the
talking
car.
about hairpins in that car, Callum, I mean, do you mind if I put on that video just now
Oh,
of
torque
that
on.
car? I mean, it's one of my most favourite videos. It's just, I remember when I was at college, actually, I was at a party in Glasgow, believe it or not, and rallying is normal for us to kind of put on the telly or whatever, but sort of 11 o'clock at night, and I kind of switched the music off to put this footage on, and I didn't get quite the response I was hoping before, but I really enjoyed myself. So I'll just, we'll just put some context to what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So that video was taken by my cousin Colin McPhail,
Right to cheer, Tommy. Just start coming.
and that's my dad in the background. My dad and Tommy Duffy, he's there as well.
Tommy!
Oh, it gives you goosebumps. I love this. Oh God.
Yeah,
That is fantastic.
that's just someone having a good time, and like, yeah, it was just one of them sort of perfect events that
Yeah,
everything seemed to go right. We didn't win it, but it didn't matter. It
yeah,
was really what rallying is all about. And again, it was Adrian Hargreaves that prepped that car. And
yeah,
we had it the year before, and that car actually failed in the start line. There was a coil problem with it, and we only got halfway over the lock, and it packed up. And then we did the super rally or whatever you call it, and the engine seized. So it went from being a disappointing car to a car that was just unbelievable.
yeah,
And there is no Escort like a BDA. It just that noise is so unique. And like I say, there was no threat. We couldn't win. There was no threat from behind, so it was just totally chilled out, and that was the result. That type of driving.
yeah. I mean, it's just fantastic and something like I'm quite excited for myself. Obviously, nowhere near the level that you have competed at over the years and the driving ability and stuff. But obviously, I managed to pay the money for the fancy car, and I managed to get my win through certain misfortunes and stuff. But for me, a win's a win. I'm quite realistic. I know I'm not going to be winning it year on year out. I can't afford to do it. But what I'm really excited about is now I've got my name on the trophy, and I've got that win. No matter how it comes, and I can't wait to go out and just what you were saying there. We were laughing and we were smiling and we're on the handbrake at every corner. That would be just so enjoyable and so fantastic. I think like there's a lot of pressure when you spend so much money now, 20, 30, and then even the excess for the insurance that you've got to have that admittedly I've never had. I'll just think, oh, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. But, it'd be nice to go in something that you can actually afford to do and, just really, really enjoyable. So I absolutely love that video. It's fantastic, really, really looking forward to doing the rally next year. But I mean, will we see you back? Like, how's things going with you, and what's your plans?
Um, the plan is to come back. Um, I'm 50 this year, so it was always sort of my plan to do something for my 50th. Um, Obviously, we had the black and white car built by Barry there, and it didn't go to plan. And there was other things that happen in life that you sometimes have to prioritise, and so I had to do that. So that car had to go. So that path that I was taking at that time has now established itself, and it's doing what I thought it would.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the sacrifice was the car had to go at the time.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of this year, it is my plan to do the event. I'm not sure what in. Like I say, being 50, it'd be nice to be able to have a go in an R5 or something like that. Um,
Is that
Something
something
different.
that you would entertain? I mean, would you go the R5 route, or I always when I think of Calum Duffy, I think there's a you know no better Mark II man out there.
Yeah, I would like to try it. I mean, because it might very much like yourself. You made a plan and you executed your plan. It doesn't matter what happened out with what your plan was. You had a plan. You brought it together. You did everything in terms of promoting that plan. And what better result could you ask for than it to all go to plan? It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what happened on the periphery of that. That is absolutely admirable to have a dream, and you're the epitome of the boy that dreamt big and it all came in,
Mm,
so absolute respect for that, and to go all in like that, there's very few people who commit to that type of thing,
mm,
and don't get me wrong, you prepared for that as well, and you've been rallying long enough now that you have prepared to a point. You thought, no, I'm going to have a crack at this, so like I say, huge respect for that, and I would treat my 50th like that. I would want to see, right, I want to do it in one of them cars,
mm.
and I would make a plan to come to try and get there. It might not work, but at least you've planned it out, had a go, and so what? And in terms of the Mark II, they are better now, and I was, you know, I believe it or not, I'm a bit of an anorak. I study in cars all the time. Everybody's in car,
Mm.
you know, and I was watching like John when he did it in Ryan's Escort, you know, and some of the times that John was putting up were just phenomenal in that car, in them conditions. But it was just like unbelievable, you know, and he was having some monstrous moments,
Ah, he
you know.
was. He was having
Yeah,
some
yeah.
big, big moments.
Like, wow, he had more moments in that one event than I've probably had in 30 years of my career, like, you know. And I was just like, but he got it to the end, you know what I mean? And like I say, some of the stage times, I was like, my God, that is unbelievable, you know. And like, and he put his in car up, you know, and so it's not like it was rubbish. It was there for everyone to see, and
Yeah.
just like the commitment levels, I'm not sure if I have that in me anymore. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I, that black and white car, it's just such a shame because that was one of the best handling escorts I've ever had. It really was it felt like a glove around you, that car. And I thought, this thing, if ever there was a year that we were going to have a crack at this again in an escort, it was going to be in that car.
Mm.
But unfortunately, it just didn't come to be. You know, like I say, we had a plan. We built a black and white car. It was a beautiful car, everything, but it didn't happen, you know.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, if you're going to do it next year, like obviously you've had a look at the route and stuff. Like I think there's been quite a bit of excitement. Would you agree with that? That's come from this route. It's kind of maybe a bit more back to kind of the grassroots and kind of what the rally was in the past.
Yeah, I think that route is as good a route as I've seen in a long, long time. You know,
Mm.
it ticks all the boxes in terms of what the Mull Rally is and always was. It goes to the spectators as well. It's very spectator friendly. Um, it adds the challenge that the Mull Rally is. The physical demand on it is back, in my opinion.
Mm.
A very, very technical route, and it should be exceptionally enjoyable for the competitors. So yeah, it's to be applauded. It really is.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. Obviously, we had Richard Crozier on before, kind of talking about how the route came about and what allowed the route to happen was this increase in bogey speeds from 75 miles an hour up to 80 miles an hour, and we're seeing the likes of the Glen Road, you know, during the day, and we're getting a run at the Glen 3 times. Now that's you know there's no hiding that that's my most favourite stage, other than Loch Tuath, kind of heading up the way. It's just the Glen.
Yeah.
It's just the most amazing stage. I really really enjoy it. I mean, what's your favourite stage of you've had them all to pick from?
It was always the Mishnah Lochs. The Glen Road, I drove that road every day, morning and night for about 10 years going to work. And I know it just inside out. And when they put the Glen and the Lochs together, that was unreal. That
Yeah,
was my two favourites linked together, and I drove past my granny's house. So, or my own road end. So you couldn't ask for better. But the Lochs to me was always, and I like I say, I've been rallying for 30 years nearly driving, and I have never come off the Mishnish Lochs and thought that's it. That is as fast as I'm going to go. There's always something in that stage, and I must have done that stage over 100 times.
yeah,
And I've always come off thinking the brakes have gone, the tyres went right, the road it was never bone dry, or if it was bone dry, the tyre was off. You know, you get to the end of the stage and you're punching the steering wheel, thinking, when are you ever actually going to come off that stage thinking, that was it,
yeah,
everything was there, you know, and maybe it'll never happen.
yeah.
But I love it. I love that stage, you know, it's just so technical and it is never the same. There's always something about it. You're like, it catches you out or just unreal, like, you know.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. This is something like it's good the locks as well because everybody and their granny has been over the locks and everyone kind of knows where they're going in the locks, so you can kind of go on there and It's kind of fair. Everyone's got kind of their own kind of fair go at it. But I mean, obviously, like talking about, say, like pace notes, for example, like Craig and I for a bit of a laugh, like threw the pace notes away in that last one. It's a shame that the in-car didn't capture it, but we had a great old time. We're just having a bit of a laugh. But I mean, is there notes, or would you ever consider not using pace notes, or have you not used pace notes in the past?
I never used pace notes in the beginning. Um, Steve Davis gave me some notes to start with. So there's ones him and I think Pete Pennington might have made, and they were good. So they kindly gave them to me, and I think they were 1 to 9s. And what we did was we only used them in certain places. So say you had a loop stage of like over the hill road and down the glen, Dad
Hmm.
would only read notes over the hill road and stop reading.
Ah,
So
okay, yeah.
you went from feedback, feedback, feedback to nothing. And then all
Hmm.
you were hearing was just Dad talking, we were just chatting going up the glen because you knew at that
What are we doing
point.
for dinner tonight, Dad?
Oh yeah, yeah. So it was, yeah. But then eventually, over speaking to certain people and that were higher up on a professional level or whatever, they would say, "No, no, make your own notes, and try driving to them all." So eventually, we got to a stage where we had notes everywhere, and we do to this day still have notes.
Hmm.
So they're very much our own unique notes, and I would argue the case that a lot of people would struggle to drive to them because
Mm.
we large chunks of a bit are missing out because you just know that does that. Um, the pickup points are reference to local people's houses that people won't know that you.
Left five at bin and all that sort of thing. Because
Yeah,
the bins are going to be out at that point all the time.
exactly. So no, we do use notes, and one of the main reasons that we started getting into it is because every other rally we went to away, we needed to use notes.
Yeah.
So we wanted to become familiar with them. So obviously we went to Donegal. I think at that time it was Patterson's notes you used. So we got them as a baseline and amended a lot of them. Ian was up for hours every night, putting stickies on everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do use notes, and you do. I did find once you started really committing to the notes that our times improved.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, and then obviously notes change with whatever car you're in. And as cars were getting faster, as you were getting the 2.5, we went from 2.3, 2.4, and then we had the 2.5. So the notes all of a sudden were not relative to the car.
Yeah.
You were getting there that much quicker. So you had to kind of caution your notes a bit back.
Mm.
And unfortunately, you were already around the corner thinking, Jesus Christ. And then you were like, that needs to be a 4 instead of a 3, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So,
And take out a lot of the unnecessary stuff that Craig certainly found that, after
yeah,
coming from, like 1600 cars up to kind of like the Subaru and stuff, it's, little lefts and little rights and that kind of pace of car, once you get up to that top level, you're just putting straight because you can't, the co-driver can't spit all that out in time. It's just a waste of paper, really.
yeah. Yeah, we would cut all the short distances, like left 220, left 3, we would just cut all that out,
Yeah.
you know, just because it was like you say, they just couldn't keep up. And no, I mean, Ian's been a very good navigator over the years, and we've always got on very well in the car,
Mm.
hardly ever a crossword, and because we both had the same aim,
Yeah.
and we were both ecstatic at the same time, you're both disappointed at the same time. It was, and you were going through a war, for the want of a better word, at that point, and you could always know what the outcome you both wanted was, and we were as one, really, a team, a proper
Yeah.
team, and you need that.
Yeah, I have heard in the past, how much that you listen to Ian and how much like his opinion can either like speed you up or bring you back. Like it's kind of that sixth sense that he knows, right, Callum, you're kind of pushing on a bit too much here where you might fall off the road, and he'll bring you back. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean he's very experienced in terms of that, and I think it's more to do because we have a proper talk before we go into every stage. So that's where he's maybe more of a calming influence on me, whereas because I'm pretty aggressive just in general, and he'll say, right, let's what are we doing here, and maybe we have an aim to do, and we need to get 20 seconds. He says, well, we don't need to get 20 in here, we'll get 5, and then we'll get 2 in
Right,
the next,
okay.
and we'll get 7 on that one, and then we'll get 10 on that one, and then we'll be winning by 5. So that's rather than me going, fuck it, I'm gonna get 20 in this one.
Yeah, which is what you
So,
would like to do.
of course, and that's and if he thinks for any reason that that's my attitude in the stage, he will sort of say, "Look, what are we doing here? Tidy it up, come back a bit, So that's teamwork. That's brothers knowing each other,
Yeah.
and he knows that it's just having. And then there's always it's very rare, and I don't think he's ever had to say, stick, get your finger out. He's
Yeah.
always bringing me back, which is a good thing, and at times when we had the Skoda, for example, that was such a learning curve for that car on Mull. And after the first night, we were going to pull out. We were genuinely going to pull out in that car because we just could not get that car to handle, and it was to the point where like my vision was starting to go because it was just bouncing so much. We couldn't get the suspension. We didn't have the right suspension there. We spoke to Roman Cresta, who's like a factory driver, and he was sort of guiding us through some setup changes, that kind of thing. And when we came to the Saturday, and John was on the R5 that year, the Fiesta R5, and by good luck, it rained because it changed the speed of the car, everything like that, and the speed you were going into corners. So on a slower pace, because it was just like over compressions. It was like being on a skateboard. It was unbelievable, and the lights were bouncing and flickering, and your vision was all going, and there was like a smell of petrol in the car. It was just horrible, And I thought, well, I don't want to be the person that gives up.
Yeah.
And Ian came down. He's like, my back's really sore. I said, well, we've made some changes here. Let's do the first loop. Let's see how we're getting on. Let's see how you are, more important. And if he told me his back was knackered, we would have pulled. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
That just is what it is. It's happened to plenty of people. But anyway, the car was significantly better. Big changes, And like I say, the speed in the corners wasn't there because of the weather. And then eventually, throughout time, we started becoming more competitive. We started pulling time out of John. We'd lost way too much by that point, but the car was getting better and better all the time. But that was the kind of feedback you were looking for. It was like, okay, let's have a go at it. Let's see what we can do. And yeah, and that's always been the case. I remember to get the Skoda, we had an ex-works Group A Subaru treble 5 car.
That's right, yeah. You won in that, didn't you?
We won in that. So that was without doubt the best handling car I've ever had in Mull. And it wasn't in Bilsteins, it was in Riger. But it was still an ex-works car. It was like a tank. It was so solid on the road. It had active diffs, it had everything like that. And we only scratched the surface of what that car could have done on Mull. And we came over, I think, we came over the hill road. It was round Calgary and up the Glen, and we were on soft Michelin slicks. And when we came over the hill around Calgary, whatever that, we came into Dervick, and it just pished down. It was absolutely thundering off the road. And I remember I was in sixth going up the Glen like that, and I was like, I could see the water on the road. I'm thinking, how is this car not moving? It was flat in sixth, and the car was just sat on the road, absolutely sat on the road. And Ian, at that point, Ian was saying to me, do you know, I think we're going a bit fast. And I think, well, I'm driving to the car, the car is telling me that it is okay. He says, but there's water running down the road and we're on slicks. I said, yeah, I know, but the car is handling. It wasn't going anywhere. It was like I say, it was like a tank. And we got to the end of the stage, and he's like, I can't believe that. And I think we'd taken a lot of time out of John and at that time, and we needed to take it, and like everyone said, what was that weather like? Well, to be honest, it was horrendous, but the car, but you're on slicks. Yeah, I know. I can't believe it myself.
Yeah.
And it gave you so much confidence in the car itself. It was, like I say, we only scratched the surface. I wasn't left foot braking by that time.
Right. Okay.
I was still conventional braking. And, when we got the Skoda, I taught myself to left foot brake.
Right.
And
Okay.
now I left foot brake with everything, all the escorts, everything like that. I'm left foot braking with everything now. In my road car. So it's just, yeah. So that car, when I look what I know now as a driver, and I left foot, I can left foot brake pretty competently as far as I'm concerned. And I would go back into that car. That would be another step up. It's just so good. Some of the times we set in that car are still just bordering on records.
Yeah.
So that's why to digress slightly. When I look at an R5, I'm thinking, well, they're proper setup cars. And if I can bring a level of competency in terms of driving and knowing how to handle that car, you're just curious to what could you do.
Yeah.
Except, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Neil was still winning the rally in his late 40s and his 50s. You know, and that's something I would take. There's no reason why you can't, as long as you bring a plan and you have everything right and the right attitude, you've done the right prep work, and you're giving yourself every shot of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know how good or bad that is for me to hear that you're potentially going to go R5. I was kind of hoping it was maybe, a fleet of Mark IIs in the top 10 is my dream, but maybe we can spark up some sort of gentleman's agreement across the board. Maybe get some of the Irish lads over. Maybe Frank Haley might come over and
yeah. I mean, it's worth talking to all these guys, and I think David Bogie, I've sent him the new route just to let him know what's going on.
Yeah.
He's got unfinished business in Mull and the escort.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if that kind of thing happens, and I'll not be the odd one out. I'll join in. I'll join in too. It's but I just don't know where we would get as many good escorts to hire.
Yeah, I suppose that is the issue. But well, listen, Callum, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. We've had some great stories, really interesting stuff. So yeah, 9 times Mull Rally winner, and it's good to see that you're having a lot of fun with it through the years. That's a lot of things I want to kind of take from this. So I've certainly learned a lot from this, and really appreciate your time, and fingers crossed for the big 5-0 this year. And yeah, hopefully you get another win under your belt, and then that'll be you, double figures. Away you go.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Fergus. It's been great talking to you, and like I say, utmost respect for what you did this year. No one can take your name off that trophy now, and you deserve it more than anyone. So well done.
No, I really appreciate that. No, that's fantastic. Right, Callum, thank you very much, and we'll chat soon.
Okay, no worries. Cheers. Catch you later.